Shalom Aleichem. We're now going to Mr. Hashem talk about Sif Tes Vav and Tes Zayin, and then the next we'll have a short shir on that, and then one more short shir to finish off the Siman after this in the next few days of Mr. Hashem. And as you saw on the schedule, we're finishing off the Siman now, and then soon beginning the Chazara to in the next couple of weeks of Mr. Hashem to have a Bechina to finish off Shin Yud Ches. And I trust that by now everybody has ordered their, if you already have it yet, the Shabbos Kitchen, and we'll be coming out soon with the schedule for the Shabbos Kitchen over the period of the summer, as we mentioned in the past and through the letters we sent out for everybody. So in Sif Tes Vav, Davar Shenis Bashel Kol Tzorko for Yavesh She'embo Marak Mucha Lanicho Keneged Hamadura Afilu Makom Shiatzel Let us bo. The Shulchan Aruch is saying that, making a few tanoim to put it Keneged Madura, the swar of Keneged Madura, the sugi over here, the chiddush of this sif right now, at this part of the sif, is excuse me, in the sugya of mixik and mavashal. And although to take something l'chatchila, as we know, to put it on the fire to begin with on Shabbos, when it's cold, even though it's mavusha called tzorko, there are many times that's considered mixik and mavashal, so that's asur midrabanan. But when it's keneged and medura, since it's not directly on the fire, then it's not mixik and mavashal. And the Mishnah Berurah points out a stipulation in the name of the Rush, excuse me, that the keneged and medura means not right directly adjacent to the medura, but has to be berichuk tzas, a little bit of a distance. Only then is it not mixik and mavashal. So it has to be a little bit of a separation. And we find a similar concept, the exact same wording actually, in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that says that you're havei mischamim keneged oram. When it talks about the kavod you have to have for Talmidei Chachamim, so it says that be careful not to get too close, and you should be mischamim keneged oram, keneged their heat or keneged their fire. And there, Rav Chaim Volozhin or Rav Chaim points out that keneged oram is badafka keneged, meaning not too close, but you have to find the right distance, not to get too close, but also not too far. So maybe his raya is actually from here to say that, from this halacha, that keneged medura, from this rush, that it means not too close, but a little bit of a distance. So now the Chazon Ish points out that he has a taina on the Mishnah Berurah that the rush that the Mishnah Berurah is quoting doesn't. It's not sufficient according to the rush that it's just keneged, but it also has to be according to the rush in a makom she'ein hayatzel let us bo. The rush himself holds that if it will be in a makom she'yatzel let us bo, even though it's keneged, it's still going to be mixik and mavashal. It's still a problem. The Mishnah Berurah left out that stipulation, so the Chazon Ish adds that back in. He has a taina on the Mishnah Berurah if you're going with the rush. The Chazon Ish himself points out that that many other Rishonim hold not that way. It doesn't matter if it's yatzel let us bo or not, but if you're quoting the rush, then you need to say that. But I think the answer to the Mishnah Berurah and the Niyas Daiti would just be that he true is quoting the rush, but he's not quoting the entire rush purposely, because he's samach on the other Rishonim in the Ikar Din to say that it doesn't have to be Yatzel Let us bo, but he's just be machmir this one nakuda in order to take away the problem of mixik and vashal to l'chol hapachas have a little berichut tzas. So it doesn't mean to totally paskin the rush, but the rush is the makor for this particular prat in this halacha that it should be a little bit of a distance. So a nafkamina, well, this would be practical nafkamina if you're in a camp setting, a Shabbaton, or in a camp, and if you have a bonfire and you put the food to heat up near the bonfire, so we know that we can't put it directly out over the bonfire on Shabbos if it's food that's taken out of some kind of cooler, and you have some kind of cooler there. But you could put it near the bonfire to warm up, but again, it has to be richuk tzas, not to get to not to be directly right next to it, but a little bit of a distance, that it shouldn't be mixik and mavashal. Now the Mishnah Berurah also in Tzadik Daled says another chiddush that it's okay as long as you can't put it inside the actual tanur unless it's on top of some kind of a like a kedera. You put a kedera on the karkais tanur, then it's okay. So there also the Mishnah Berurah himself, back in Sifkat Mem Aleph earlier, it says explicitly that inside the tanur there's no heter at all. It's always mixed with mavashal inside the tanur. So the situation in Mishnah Berurah here is talking about is inside the tanur, and it must be a little bit of a bigger tanur. They have fire on one side, and you're putting it inside b'richuk tzas, I guess, to fulfill the rush. it's big enough that you could put a b'richuk tzas and on top of a kadera that it should actually be on the floor of the tanur that's really, really hot. And the Mishnah Berurah holds that's sufficient, but the problem is that that's what he says here, but over there he says lahedya, that not that way. And the Chazon Ish over here points this out as well. The Chazon Ish has a taina that we don't find any heter ever inside the tanur. So for us, it's not that big enough because for us, our whole tanur there is no rikuk tzas at all from the eish ever inside the tanur, because our tanurim have evenly distributed heat going throughout the entire tanur, because the heating element goes through the whole thing. The eish is everywhere. So I'm not sure today where enough community where this would be, but it is a machlokas in the pshat and the Shulchan Aruch over here. Another very important nakuda we have in this sif, which we discussed in the past many times, mainly in Sif Dalid, but also back in Rishon and Gimel, that the Ramah over here says that even if it isn't istanin already, imu raseach afilu b'davar sheyesh b'marach muter. So first of all, if it's raseach, even if it is liquid, you can put it back. You can put it keneged medura. V'yesh mekilin lomar, says the Ramah, the kol she'ein nosno al gabi eish or akira mamish rak samach lo afilu nistanin muter. Some say, he quotes the Magid Mishnah, that even if it's lach and it's tanin, then that's also mutter keneged medura, because that shita holds that ein bishul achar bishul balach. So the Ramah ends off, but no gu lahakel b'zeh imiloi nitztana legamri, k'mosh ksafti and Siman Rishon and Gimel, back in Sif Hey. So over there we discussed the shitas Ramah, which he said over there as well. And we discussed the machlokas, the Magad Avram and the Mishnah Berurah on one side, and the Chazon Ish and the and Rav Moshe Feinstein on the other side, and many others also sort of weigh in on this question: what does the Ramah really hold about this question of bishul achar bishul balach if it wasn't stan in the gamrei? Does the Ramah hold that if it would be the stan in the gamrei lach balach, but by lach, then it would be considered bishul deraisa? And therefore, that the Ramah says that we're noig l'hakel if it wasn't a stan of the gamrei, which over there we discussed the Rav Moshe points. Rav Moshe says, and also the Egli Tal, that the shear is in the Ramah that it tastes like you're eating hot food. You can still tell that it's hot food. So is the Ramah saying a kula, a tremendous kula in this halacha? Is the Ramah saying that really, if it would be cooled down the gamrei, it would be full bishul deraisa? With that, he concurs with the Machaber, but he holds that if it's still warm to the point of it tastes like you're eating warm food, then it's still nicker. It's saying a big kula in that din, and he's saying if it's still nicker that the bishul is there, then ein bishul achar bishul, which is a tremendous kula in that deraisa. Or is the Ramah saying a chumrah? Really, the Ramah holds that ein bishul achar bishul even balach. He holds like those rishonim. So midiraisa, there's no shaila, and that he requires it not to be nistan on the gamrei is a chumrah that you shouldn't come to start cooking things to begin with. So he's just being makbid to at least have it a little bit warm, but there really is no such shear in the deraisa. So the Chazon Ish very strongly tied it over there that there's no way to have such a shear of inskamim of cham tzas in the shear deraisa. So the Chazon Ish and Rav Moshe both learn in the Ramah that he must be learning that it is midiraisa mutter to mivashal at once, even if it's the son of the gamrei. However, the Magen Avraham and the Mishnah Berurah over there, and the Mishnah Berurah in Sifkat and Tzadik Aleph and Tzadik Dalid was very clear, like the Magen Avraham, that there would be, the Ramah holds that there is bishul deraisa if it's a son of the gamrei. And this shear does help for the shear helps to take away the deraisa, which is a tremendous chiddush. We discussed that there. The problem is that the Mishnah Berurah over here and Magen Avraham over here say exactly the opposite. Here they say like Ramosha and the Chazon Ish. And you see that in the Mishnah Berurah in Sifkat and Tzadik Zayin. The way he explains the Ramah, he says, Yesh Mekilim Lomar, Paligam Achaber. The sphere lay the Dafka Kashu Yavesh, Abu Badavar Lach, and it's Stanen, Yesh Bishal Achar Bishal. The Machaber holds there is Bishal Achar Bishal. But Dehazu sphere lay this opinion, the Yesh Mekilim Lomar, sphere lay the Ein Bishal Achar Bishal, Bechol Gavni, I feel in the Stan of the Gamri. Now, Betzim, this Mishnah Berurah is really explaining the in-between Shita, but afterwards in Sifkat and Sadi Dalid, and Sadi Tes, where he's going on the actual Shita of the Ramah, where he says to have this kula of, or either kula or chumrah of having cham, the miktsas. So he says in Sadi Tes, even though after the Dasa Mechaber came to the Stanim at Mechanim Musov, Eni Yatzel let us bo shuv yeshushim bishol, v'sheksav mel'el b'sif Dalid hamineg l'halka b'zeh somchim b'zeh ayesh mekilim calls manshal in the Stan of the Gamer. So the Mishnah Berurah is saying that the Ramah to say this kula is being samach on the Yesh Mekilim, and the Yesh Mekilim themselves, he explained that they hold Ein Bishal Achar Bishal Afil Balach and it's Stanen. So if you put the two and two together, then Mishnah Berurah is holding that the Pshat in the Ramah is that there is no Bishal Deraisa even by Lach when it's the Stan of the Gamre, and that's Sosa in the Mishnah Berurah back in Reish and Gimel, Tzadik Aleph and Tzadik Daled. And we found the same steer in the Maggid Avraham himself. Over there he explains the Ramah, like we said, like the Mishnah Berurah over there says that the Ramah holds there is Bishul Deraisa, and even so the Cham Tzas helps. And over here the Maggid Avraham and Mishnah Berurah say the opposite. So that I don't have an answer for that. It remains Sarach and Gadol to me that there seems to be a very open stira in the Maggid Avraham and the Mishnah Berurah. Al Kopanim, the halacha, it doesn't really change the halacha because the Ramah Sof Kosov says what he says. It's more a question of lumdus of what is the Ramah Shita. But the actual halacha doesn't really change. I'm not sure. I don't really know of a nafkamina between the two. I guess, well, there is a nafkamina, but the nafkamina is really only theoretical because if it was a stein on the gamre and you would heat it up, so then it comes out to be a machlokes or a stira if you're over a drabanan or over a deraisa. Balav hachi, actually, yeah, it's going to be usher to do it. Just the question is, what were you over, a drabanan or over a deraisa? So I guess it's a nafkamina l'gabei tshuva, but there's no real nafkamina l'halacha whether you're allowed to do it or not. Okay, so going further here. In Sif Tes Zayin, Shulchan Aruch says mutter liten, and in panda, it's a kind of a meat knish. It has meat with congealed fat in it. Keneged eish, b'makom shiatz lettuce. So here also, it's a heter is put as keneged eish, which means not samach manish, but a little bit of a distance. Makom shiatz lettuce bo. Even in a place where it's Yatzel Lettuce Boat. Now, we have, there's two, the poskim over here discuss two separate issues over here. Two separate things. There's one shaila of Mixikim of Ashel, and there's another shaila of, well, actually three shailas. There's Mixikim of Ashel, then we have, what the poskim here discuss is a shaila of Bishel, by heating up the congealed fat and it's going to melt. Is there or is there not a bishul issue? And then the last issue, which the Rishonim will discuss here, is a nolad issue. That if you have congealed fat and then it becomes liquefied, is that a problem of nolad, which is a question of muktzah on Shabbos? So now, starting with the pshat in the Shulchan Aruch, so when it says in the Shulchan Aruch that you're allowed to put it even in a place that's Yatzel Lettuce Bo, so the Taz in the Magen Avraham quote the Levush that says that it's a Toh Sofer, it's a mistake in there, and it should be B'makom she'ein hayatzel Lettuce Bo, because otherwise it's going to be an issue of bishul. If you're going to put it in Makom Yatzel Lettuce Bo and it's going to go from congealed to liquefied and it's going to get heated up, then it's going to be a problem of bishul. So it certainly has to be a mistake in the Mechaber has to be makom she'ein yatzal edesbo. But the Magen Avraham and Taz both are cholak on the levush, and they say that the Shulchan Aruch is right, and it's mutter even makom she'yatzal edesbo. And there is no problem with bishul. Why not? So the Magen Avraham says over here a klal, which I think is a yesod gadol in Hilchos Bishul, something we have not had yet, and it's I think a very important yesod, that the Magen Avraham says that it's not bishul because at the time you put it next near the fire in makom she'yatzal edesbo, at that moment that you put it down, it is yavesh. Right now it's still congealed. It's not liquefied yet, it's congealed. So when the person put it down near the fire and congealed, then it's considered a davar yavesh, even though you know very clearly that the fire is going to heat it up and it's going to be liquefied. It's going to turn into oil. It's going to become like oil, fat, the melted fat. So we see from here that and Mishnah Berurah points this out as well. I mean, Mishnah Berurah brings this down. He says that in Sifkat and Kuf, in the end of it, he says, "V'kalmakom mikra yavesh kevin shebishah shanosno lechamamo lo nimcha adayin." Since at the moment you put it down, it was not yet melted, so therefore we don it like a davar yavesh, which is a big chiddush, because you might have thought that, and this is probably the pshat in levush. The levush must be holding that. True, it's yavesh right now, but since you know clearly that it's going to become lach, so then you put that in motion, then it's like you're heating up a davar lach. But it's very interesting chiddush over here that the Magen Avraham is saying, and the Mishnah Berurah is quoting, that we don't go by what's going to become. We go by what it is now. When you did your maisa, your action, when you put it down, it was a davar yavesh. And since ein bishal or bishal yavesh, in bishal that the gavra, the person, put it down, it was davar yavesh. It doesn't matter that on its own it's going to become afterwards lach. You, by putting it down, only heated up a davar yavesh, and therefore ein bishal or bishal yavesh. So it's a fascinating chiddush, and I think it's a yesod gadol. Now the Mishnah Berurah and the Magen Avraham Mishnah Berurah, they say this. It's a chiddush against the levush. It's also a chiddush against the Chai Adam. And Nishmas Adam learns over here in the sugya that when the Magen Avraham says yavesh, it means yavesh mamish. It's going to stay yavesh. It's not going to really become so liquefied. But the Mishnah Berurah clearly learns it's not that way. That's the pashtus. That's connecting the pashtus of the Shulchan Aruch. The Mishnah Berurah is clearly learning that it's going to be, and it's coming to Mitaretz. We're not bothered by that because it all goes by what you put it down, not by what it's going to become later. Now, since there's not a problem with bishul over here, according to the Magen Avraham and the Mishnah Berurah, so what is the main problem over here? What's the issue that we're even discussing? According to them, the ikar and nekuda over here is really the problem of nolad, whether it's nolad or not. And the question is, why is it not a problem nolad? The Shulchan Aruch says it's okay to put it down, even though it's going to liquefy and become this liquid that wasn't before, because it would have stayed congealed if not for you putting it near the fire. So the Mishnah Berurah in Kuf Beis, he asks it as a stira between seems to be a stira between here and the Siman Shin Chaf. It says that you're not allowed to take to crush ice in your hands and turn it into water. That's also because of nolad, to create the water out of the ice. There's a lashon of Rashi that it's lashon of molid, which is, Rashi says it's dumya l'malacha. Since you're doing a ma'aseh b'yadayim, it's not that it's nolad, that it becomes a davar nolad like an egg that's born, but it's because you did a ma'aseh to create the water. It's dumya l'malacha. It looks like you're doing malacha, like you're creating something. But the poskim over here don't seem to be talking about molid. They're talking about nolad. And the Mishnah Berurah asks this kasha and says that over there in Shin Chaf, the ice is also mishum nolad. He says shemolid hamayim. Now there is a different girsa. And other poskim say the problem is not nolad, it's molid, but the Mishnah Berurah is going with nolad. So he answers that the chiluk is a pashut chiluk. Over there you did a ma'aseh b'yadayim, so you can't create that nolad b'yadayim. Mashenkin over here, when you put it down, you didn't do anything. You just put it down, and then on its own, it's going to heat up and then form itself. So that the Mishnah Berurah says, "Delo avad klum b'yadayim el mameluhu nimcha." over here it's different because of that. It only have a mela. We got a barad nami. Awandosan letocha kos shal yain letzanano beina choshesh. Al pishin imua kevit shehu mela. That it's not a problem since it happens when you put the ice into your cup of wine. The reason that it's okay is you don't do a maisa biyadayim. It happens memela. Now the problem with this Mishnah Berurah is that back over in Shin Chaf later on when he discusses this, there the Mishnah Berurah doesn't say the svara of mamela or biyadayim. There he says the reason it's mutter when you put the ice into the cup of wine is because it's inu nicker, because every drop that melts immediately gets mixed into the wine. You never see at all for one instant that water that was created, and that's why it's not a problem nolad. So the question is why over here, based on that, the Mishnah Berurah over there says that since it's not nicker at all and it's not nolad at all, even if you do a biyadayim, in other words, if you take some ice in your hand and put it under the water and hold it in your hand to melt, so then it's still not a problem, because even though you're doing a ma'aseh biyadayim, there is no nolad because it never gets nicker, it's never seen. But according to the Mishnah Berurah over here, it seems to be so himself, because over here he's saying that heter is only because it, even in the kos yayin, is because it happens to mamela. So it's masha from the Mishnah Berurah over here that it's going to be usher to do it biyadayim, even in the kos where it won't be nicker. So that's a tzorach even of the Mishnah Berurah that it seems to be so himself in the svara that he says. Now he does mention that svara a minute later, because the Ramah goes on to say that Kol Sheken, says the Ramah, if you're allowed to put this pashtida, this knish next to the fire, Kol Sheken kederish yesh bar rotev shenikrash shuman nimuach enu be'en deshari. Certainly, if you have it in a kedera, that it's immediately going to melt into the congealed fat on the top of a soup. You're going to heat up the soup in a way that the congealed fat is going to melt into the soup. Then it's a kal v'chomer that you could do that because it's never really seen be'en. Now, and Mishnah Berurah and Kuf Gimel explains why is it a kol sheken, why is it a kal v'chomer. He says the bezeh kashuni muach nisara v'shumen imarotev ve'enu nicker v'dami mamish la'adaminan awanosan l'tokakos mishum ve'enu nicker kashnuach abar l'socho. So here suddenly the Mishnah Berurah does add in this svara that he says over there in Shin Chaf, which is over there that was the main svara that he said. Here the Mishnah Berurah he only adds it in as a secondary svara to the first svara that he said. The first svara was that it's done memela, not biyadayim, and then now he's saying why is it a kal v'chomer? Because now we have a secondary svara as well. We have a second svara to be mekel that it's not nicker. So he does mention it as a secondary svara over here, but not as the main svara. So that still remains sarachiyun. But al kol panim he does mention that svara here as well. And then, but then the Ramah says that there are yesh machmirim with this because they hold, as the Taz and they speak by Richos, and the Mishnah Berurah points out over here that bishlema by the water into the cup of wine, you don't see the water at all. Mashenkin over here, if you have congealed fat on top of the soup, when it liquefies, you're going to see a layer of oily residue on top of the soup. So it is nicker, even though it's all in a liquid, and therefore the first day of the Ramah holds is still a kol sheken because he must hold the Ramah kol sheken as mutter, because even though you can see that layer on top. It's not a machlokas in Mitzias whether they see it or not. Everyone agrees you can see it, but the Ramah must be holding that since there's never a time that it was nicker by itself outside of the taruvas of the mixture with the soup, so then it's called inner nicker. And the Yesh Machmirim, the second sheet is holding that no, it doesn't matter if it's in a taruvas or not. If sof kol sof you can see it, then you don't have the heter of the water and the yain, because sof kol sof you see it. By the wine you don't see it at all. Here you do see it. So the Mishnah Berurah, the Ramah ends off saying that the minig is to be machmir, but macham tzarach yesh lismoch asfara rishona. If it's a situation of need, then you can be samach on the first shita. Then the lashon of Mishnah Berurah is in Kuv Zayin that makom tzarech then az hainu da'az afilu chatchila mutter. If it's a place of need, then even l'chatchila you can be nena from from this from the liquid that came off of the ice or the liquefied fat that's now in the soup. B'diavad, he says, b'chol gavni ein le'esor. B'diavad, in any case, you can't aser it. Now, you might. It seems to be implied from there that this whole thing is a din l'chatchila. But let's say, for example, you would have you forgot whatever, or you put ice in a cup, and the whole thing melted, and now you have cold water in there. So that's b'diavad. So it would be with Masha for this from Mishnah Berurah. Okay, l'chatchila, I shouldn't have done that, but b'diavad it's already melted. I can just go ahead and drink it if I want to. That's what I would have thought this shot in the Mishnah Berurah. But in Shmir Shabbos Chasa in Perek Yud, Ha'ara Yud in the new edition, he brings B'Shem Shlomo Zalman Zatzal that that's not shot in the Mishnah Berurah. B'diavad means that without it, this food will be lost. The food that you really need will be lost, such as the pashtira, such as this impanda. That if it did melt, or the soup, let's say that's the soup that you have, and without it, the soup, you're not going to have any soup for Shabbos, and that's important to you. That's one thing. Masha'enken, if you just have melted water in cups of melted ice in the cups, that says with Shlomo Zalman, if you have other water around, then that's not b'chlal the b'diavad of the Mishnah Berurah. B'diavad means that if you have nothing else, then you're allowed to be somach on this. So the b'diavad is qualified by in being some way a makom tzarech. It's a place of need. But if there's not such a big need that you can just take some other water, then that he says is b'chlal the chatchila over here to be that we're being machmar like the Sefer Truma, that there is an issue of nolad, that is the opinion of the Sefer Truma is that it's b'chlal an issue of nolad over here, and we're being machmar l'chatchila like that. So makom tzarech can be mekel. It's not a makom tzarech like just other water. You can take other water. That he says you're not allowed to be mekel. But it reminds me. It's sort of humorous but embarrassing that I'll bring an example of how not to paskin, what not to do. When I was a young yeshiva bacher in Eretz Yisrael, so I was at a family simcha in Bnei Brak. It was on Shabbos, and I think it was a bar mitzvah. I never forget that we walked into the room, and they already set up the room a little bit too early, and they put all the cups for a whole room full of set up for a big crowd, and the cups had ice in it. And by the time it was a little bit before we were supposed to eat, I came in there with my aunt, and I saw that they put the ice too early, and it all melted in the cups. So I said to her that oy vey, now this is nolad, we can't drink this water. And she was so upset. It was going to be a huge ma'aseh to try to pour all the cups out and to get other ice and everything. And they said this way they could have ice water. And so we went through this whole ma'aseh of pouring out all the water, and it was a huge tircha, and she was very upset about it. But I thought I was a big tzaddik that I was matzel everybody from the iser hachamer of being nene from that water, where now embarrassingly I know how wrong I was, because that was certainly in the Chalmakum Tzarech Gadol Mizeh, that it's a whole big to do to try to do this out. So this for sure will be considered Makom Tzarech, that you'll be allowed to even l'chatchila drink that water. So es chatayim ani maskir hayom, and so l'chatchila we shouldn't do that. If you're going to put ice, the minig of the olam yeshivas, and the minig is that we have the bowl of ice or whatever, and we try to put the ice into the drink, so we don't have this issue at all. But if you know you're going to be drinking right away, there's no problem with putting the ice first. But even if it does end up melting a little bit, and it's going to be a whole tircha with a lot of people, then you're allowed to be nene from that water. Okay, so Mr. Shem will soon finish the last couple of sifim, and then we'll begin our chazara. Kol tuv, and all the best.